I did get both of mine from the list today.
Ooh, it was a historic day.
Yeah.
Did I have an update? I feel like there was something I was gonna. It'll come to me.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess welcome back to the old Colony
You didn't
Cast.
tell me that we were recording.
I was doing the sound check, and you guys just started
just
talking
talking
about the episode. You guys, nope.
This
it's
was
cool.
like behind the. Welcome back to the Old Colony Cast, a podcast about all things Plymouth and surrounding areas. I'm your host, me, not you, Andy, joined by other host Hannah.
Hi.
And our interrupting editor, Fish.
Guy who hits the record button so knows when the episode starts.
You usually give me a thumbs up.
I
or
was
a
doing the sound
A-OK
check.
sign, or
I was doing the sound check, and you just went into episode mode. So I guess we're just going.
We weren't even like recording.
That's all right.
I mean, we were literally recording.
No, but like we were like this was just chit chat.
Yeah.
It felt very episode.
It did.
Did it?
Episode-y.
Yeah,
I
you
guess
guys,
so,
you
yeah.
guys were
Me
in
too.
episode.
We were
I'm
in
always
it.
an episode. My life is an episode. I'm having an episode right now.
I know. I don't think I had anything to update you guys
I
on.
feel like I had something and I cannot remember for the life of me what it was.
Just in right before I came up here. There's 3 ocean sunfish that are beached in Buttermilk Bay.
Those are big.
Massive.
Oh, interesting side note. I don't know if you guys saw this, but you definitely didn't see the first part. Mm-hmm. So we did our craft on the green yesterday, and a motorcade drove by with state troopers with their lights on, and black SUVs with what looked like Secret Service people in it, and we're like, "What the hell's going on? Who is that?" Well, it turns out they were legit Secret Service people.
Yeah, who was it?
It was the Prime Minister of Nepal.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
So is visiting the area for some reason, and allegedly, granted, this came from Facebook, so this is not by any means fact checked. Everyone was like the Prime Minister from Nepal, but someone said that a relative of his owns the Lobster Hut. Which I'm like, that seems weird, but that could just be sure. Why not?
That can't be true.
Why not?
I don't know.
I mean, it could be, but I mean,
It's the
doesn't.
most random thing. I haven't gone there in years.
I don't think I know I've never been there.
They used to give us free food when I was a pedicab driver.
I thought it was a chain.
I don't think it is.
Yeah,
It might be, but
but
it's so.
Yeah.
But when you go in, it's like stepping back in time, because I used to go there an okay amount when I was younger. We went there for a field trip, not for the field trip, but that's where we were going to eat. And it's the trays, it just looks like a Pizza Hut, but instead it's all seafood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I do like it. Yeah. They used to give us free food under whatever, $5 or something. It was bizarre. The stuff that people would do for us when we were pedicab drivers was so out of left field. We never asked for any of it. We were treated I don't know,
Weird.
Police officers get free that was us.
Really?
Yes.
Maybe they're convinced that you didn't get paid.
We didn't get paid.
You just got tips?
Just tips.
Really?
Yes.
And it was worth it?
I would try to average $15 an hour every shift. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
So it didn't pan out like that every day, but that was my goal. So I would stick it through until I got enough.
Well, then I suppose some free stuff you guys probably deserve.
Yeah. Well, not everyone knew that it was free, but
I just assumed that you guys got paid. I knew it was free to ride.
no, and we had to rent out the bikes.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So we had to give them either a certain percent, or if you didn't get over a certain amount of money, you could pay just the flat rate of $15.
Wow, what a scam.
Definitely. Yeah. I did it for a while.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Hey, I mean,
But
good way to get paid to exercise.
yeah. Yes, I was in great shape. And but yeah, the lobster trap, they were insistent on us getting free food. They were it's on it's on the house. Don't go ahead.
Did they seem
pedicab?
Did they seem not Nepalese?
No.
Okay. It wasn't it
No.
was one person said it, so I wasn't
That's really funny.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, they didn't seem no, it seemed like their nationality was United States. But anyways, what else gave us? Like, I went into a mobile and I had my pedicab shirt on and I was like grabbing Gatorade and water. He's like, it's all set.
Wow.
Yeah, it was almost like a thank you for your service.
Yeah, weird.
It was very weird. I was like, are you sure? He's like, yeah, it's good. Go ahead.
That's very interesting.
Get like free ice creams.
Wow.
It was
I had
bizarre.
no idea. Yeah.
I'm not saying that was everywhere, but
Yeah.
it's also because I was a pedicab driver, I found out the Powerade machine that was right by the little turn by the Shanty Rose,
Yep.
right there, the little
Yeah,
gas
yeah.
station. It would eat every other $1, but it would give you 2 drinks on the next.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
weird.
so you'd put it in, you'd get nothing, and then you'd put it in again, you'd get 2 drinks. So I knew if someone had put in $1 before and they're like, it ate my thing, and they weren't going to try
then
it
you put in
before.
your dollar and get two.
Yeah. Isn't that cool? Anyway.
Probably still doesn't work like that. Listeners, go try the do they still make Powerade?
Yes.
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
I don't know if the vending
Yeah.
machine's still there, but
No.
there used to be a Powerade vending machine right on the wharf. And there was a little trick to using
See, see, we had updates.
from 10 years
Little
ago.
Plymouth life hack from
Yes, this update from 2012.
Yeah, literally. Oh my
but
God.
Hannah, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, I thought we'd move into something spooky. Mm-hmm. And I saw this on the list and I said, I don't know anything about that, so let me look into it.
Okay, interesting.
And we're going to talk about New England vampires.
Okay.
I think Fish put this on the list.
Probably.
That sounds like a Fish thing.
And I thought to myself, I didn't know people believed in vampires at any point in New England, but sure, maybe they did, right?
There's probably people who still do.
I guess to a point where there was a needed recall of some hysteria
Okay.
to it. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
there was a social acknowledgement of vampire-like behavior within
Interesting.
the New England area.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
But in a weird way. So we're going to get into it. So it was the late 1700s, early 1800s, an outbreak of something scary, unsettling took hold of New England states.
The Macarena?
No. Do you know what
Would
it
it
could
be
be?
like, now I'm trying to just remember on my spooky knowledge. Is it cholera?
No.
Okay.
But you got the C sound. Kind of. It goes by 2 names. One was consumption.
Okay.
Do you know what consumption is?
I think that's typhus.
Tuberculosis.
Tuberculosis.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
TB. All right.
Weird thing to root for.
So anyway,
Bring it back.
the initial, they called it consumption. This was, so now I'm like doing this. I'm like, oh my God, vampires, consumption. It's all coming together. That's not why they called it consumption. It was because the disease, it looked like it was consuming
you,
the
yeah.
person,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it coughing up blood, like they were literally deteriorating
Yeah.
in physical wellness in front of your eyes. It also could take a long time from the time you caught it. But tuberculosis, now commonly called tuberculosis, it spread very easily in the household because it's a bacterial disease. So
Yeah.
typically if one person got it, then
Everyone was good.
everyone was
Yeah.
going to get it. So from that's where this kind of vampire belief / undead cannibalism comes in.
Sure.
Okay, because they thought that certain members of the household would catch consumption, die, and then
become-
from the grave start to eat the members of their household, like consume them,
Yeah.
like their body, their energy. So they thought that the members of the household getting sick was actually symptoms of
Someone feeding on them.
yes.
Yeah.
So
Not that they also got the.
yeah,
Yeah.
not that
No, this is, I'm pretty sure, pre-germ theory of disease.
Oh,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, clearly.
So yeah, they believed that they were coming up from the grave, going to their loved ones, and consuming their life from them.
Yeah.
And the name vampire wasn't explicitly said, but that's essentially what that is.
You don't use the V word.
Yeah. And there were a couple ways that they looked into this. Well, sorry. The first and foremost, they had to dig up the body of the person they suspected to be the consumer.
Right.
So they would.
The consumer.
Yes. And if they...
Oh my God, there's a receipt.
Yeah. And if they saw that the body, they had to do like an autopsy on them. If they saw that there was still blood in certain areas and things appeared fresh.
Yeah.
Then that was evidence that they were in fact consuming.
And didn't they also believe that their fingernails were growing? And I could just be thinking of other like vampire reports, and that's one of the common things.
Yeah.
So as they decompose, like
your skin pulls back.
and it makes it look like your hair and your fingernails are growing.
Yeah, no, they really went more off the blood from what I could tell. So
I'm not gonna cut this vampire open and let the little Kittner boy spill out.
So there were a few ways that you could remedy this if you had a vampire cousin or something.
Vampire cousin. Name of the episode.
So they would turn the body face down. They would roll the body over in their grave. And I wondered if that had anything to do with
that term.
Huh. Isn't that funny?
It is interesting.
I didn't look into it any further than that. On to the next thing. So for the mentioned removal of what we just talked about, they'd remove the body, autopsy, see if there was any evidence of them being a consumer. They would then remove those organs that they felt were primary, so heart and stomach and stuff, and they would burn them.
Sure. So if they didn't have those, if they didn't have a stomach, they wouldn't be hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the people that were sick in the family would also inhale the smoke from the burned.
Oh, that's probably super good for you.
And then also they would decapitate them.
Okay.
So those are how you can remedy having a vampire in your family if they're eating you. We're gonna go.
No steaks, no garlic.
No, none of that.
Wow.
None of that.
Disappointing.
They also would rebury everything.
Yeah.
Together.
The ashes and...
Yeah. Everything would kind of go back in the ground with them once that was all taken care of. So a couple known cases. First is Rachel Burton of Vermont. This is in... I believe she was alive for 20 years. So 1770 to 1790. She perished of consumption or tuberculosis, and she was exhumed because this is where it gets a little oddball. Her husband, who is now widowed from her, right, had a second wife who caught tuberculosis several years after.
Oh, weird.
Rachel died.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I suppose if it's a breakout kind of thing,
right. Plenty of people are getting it, but this is now. It's just funny because it's several years later. So they exhumed her body to try and save the life of the second wife. They thought she was consuming the second wife.
She was fine until he got remarried, and then she's like, I'm coming back from the dead.
That's what I thought was funny about that one.
That is weird.
So
he's she loves me so much.
Now one can have you. So this was just an expert a line in kind of it was a medical and surgical journal in 1810 that Dr. John Clough had written and had published in there. So in the Boston Medical and Surgical Journal, and he was talking about the remedies of this vampirism, right? And I thought it was interesting of the time because this guy sounds like he knew that all the weird superstitious stuff people were doing with dead bodies was useless. So it's called The Influence of the Mind on Physical Remedies.
Okay.
And he essentially talked about it was almost like the placebo effect and how doing these things
made them feel better because they're I can feel better now because we dug up my husband's ex-wife and burnt her lungs and and that I am feeling better.
I just summarized kind of that. It's all these things that we're doing were more helpful to heal people's thoughts about it and
Yeah.
not necessarily any of their physical illness.
Yeah.
So obviously
sense.
that makes sense to us.
Not to them. Yeah.
Modern times. He was ahead of it.
This is like the era where like doctors are like, you should not wear blood-soaked clothing, and the other doctors are like, "Prah, poppycock."
Yeah. Yeah, there's like all kind of variances, and yeah, I think there was still like bloodletting. Like anyway. So John Barb, he lived from 1780 to 1843, and he was from Connecticut. And his remains, this is actually an interesting story. His remains were found by children playing in 1990 of him and his family.
Oh, weird.
Yes.
Is this in a riverbank? Or am I
was
thinking
on,
of something else?
on a farm.
Okay.
And along with several other family members, like I just said. The coffin was marked JB, 55, when he died. They were marked with, I forgot that they used to do this. It was the tacks that you, it's like those metal-plated tacks. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Like
You show me
thumbtacks?
your thumb.
Yeah.
Like the thumbtack. Oh, like they put the thumbtacks, they
and
spelled it
that's-
out.
Yes,
okay,
yes, yes.
I get what
And
you're
I
saying.
remember seeing that, I don't know, in movies or something.
I don't think I ever knew that.
Yeah, those are like just like we still make those tacks today.
Yeah, I have them on my desk.
Isn't that funny? Anyway, so those are like coffin
I'm putting
initial
them on
tests.
Fish's coffin.
It was nailed into the
Interesting.
top of his lid, and then
I don't know why that sounds weird to me. It was nailed into the top of his lid.
yeah,
I
his
don't know.
coffin lid.
Yeah, no, I get it. It just sounds weird.
So they did some research on those, like archaeologists, anthropologists, whatever of
Yeah.
the time in 1990 did some research to kind of formally figure out who these people were. And they, something was weird about John's coffin because his head was removed and placed like by his abdomen, and his rib cage was
yeah.
broken open.
Because they took out his
Yes.
guts and burnt them.
Yes. And then also, I believe it was it his son? His son also had
The same thing.
kind of like a not normal burial.
Yeah, yeah.
And they found that they were dug up. Well, John was dug up 5 years after being initially buried. So he
Yeah.
was 5 years into being
So
deceased.
it takes some time. Like, there's a long
And they-
orientation process, and you gotta be an apprentice vampire.
Right.
And, you gotta record so many hours. It's a process.
Yeah. So, his head and his femurs were removed and placed in his chest.
That's your legs, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
In a
not-
crossbone style.
That's creepy.
Yes.
It is. Also, look, if I'm worried about a vampire coming after me, I'm taking
Take
his legs off.
Yeah, it makes a lot of
Kinda
sense.
makes
Yeah,
sense,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I get their quote unquote logic.
And then this is the last one that I found particularly telling of the time. Mercy Brown. First of all, just with the name, because Mercy is just such a name of...
You just made me think of Murphy Brown.
Oh, Murphy Brown.
Yeah, good
I
show.
love that show, yeah. Anyway, so
Unrelated Massachusetts.
Mercy Brown. She died at age 19, January 17th, 1892, in Exeter, Rhode Island. January 17th is an important date,
Okay.
okay? The Brown family had almost all succumbed to this disease. First, it was the mother, Mary Eliza, then Mary Olive, her daughter. That was in 1884, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And Mercy died in 1892. Edwin fell ill. That was, I think, the youngest brother. And they decided to examine everyone in the family. And Edwin had fallen ill not long after Mercy had passed away. So they exhumed the mom, Mary Eliza, the sister, Mary Olive. And they were like, no, these aren't the ones, right?
These bodies that have been dead for a long time are much drier than this other one.
And then they exhumed Mercy on March 17th.
So that's 2 months later.
Yes.
And St. Patrick's Day.
Yes.
And they were like, oh, she's barely even gone. So they were like, she's still intact. She's got blood. She's got it all. And she was deemed like
Vampire.
a vampire pretty much because she had just died. So no one else.
That's what I'm saying. It's like the other ones were dead for years, and they're like, "Oh, this one's way more
dead for
juicy."
years.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were like, "Oh, these aren't the ones. Let's check Mercy."
But it was Patty's Day, so they were half in the bag.
Yeah.
anyways.
So so they decided.
What year was this?
This was 1892.
Did they have St. Patty's Day in 1892? Is that a thing?
I don't think so, but
I
maybe.
feel like that's
I
probably.
mean, as a Saints Day, yes.
Yeah. As what it is today.
As a let's go out and get S-faced.
Yeah, so that one I found, I don't want to say the funniest, but just telling of
It's
the logic of the time.
Yeah, it's we're gonna figure out a way to make our belief fit the situation.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's
I feel like
really
people still do that though.
yeah, they do. Yes, it's biased.
Okay, so the earliest like St. Patrick's Day parades were in New York in 1848.
Oh.
So it could.
Yeah.
So
They're like, why aren't you wearing your green autopsy clothes today?
Yeah. Oh my god.
so many pinches.
So yeah, excuse my yawn. That's really all we got on the vampire.
But it was really New England. It was Rhode Island,
Yes, and it was all
Vermont.
over.
Yeah.
Yep, all over New England.
Which it was, so for listeners who aren't Chris / Josh, whose name I still can't remember.
It's like what
Our faithful listener that I constantly run into, who comes to our horror convention. We had John Cassier, the Crypt Keeper, in, and we were talking about like why is it that this area is so fascinated. Like I think it just goes back to the Salem witch trials and vampires from New England. I think it's just always it's like built into.
Well, yeah, like it was colonized first, so we got all the first happenings of this stuff,
Yeah.
and like as society had become a little bit wiser by the time it was like moving out.
I suppose.
You know what I mean?
So you're calling us dumb, is what you're saying.
No, I just mean it was of the times.
Yeah.
Like
but it still stands through. Like people still are like kind
Yeah.
of like in this area really into spooky.
yeah, and we're far less Bible belty,
Yeah.
so that helps.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's probably at least part of it because
Yeah.
we're not as
Oh,
like every
Like they don't celebrate like Halloween and stuff in a lot of like
yeah.
yeah.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it does.
We kind of embrace it more.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
That makes sense.
definitely.
Yeah. But vampires are cool.
Vampires are cool, and they were real. No,
And at no point did they glitter.
no. I'm shocked you know that.
Oh, that's all I know.
That's funny.
There's a Edward and a Toby?
No, Jacob. That's close.
Yeah, I feel like the same thing. And one's a werewolf and one's a vampire.
Yes, but one is Batman now.
One is Batman and one is an exceptional Batman.
He is a very good Batman.
Yeah,
And the other one was Lava Boy.
he was Lava Boy prior to being.
I've never seen.
Shocker on Lava Boy.
Oh, that's
I
like
know-
your
I know
kids.
the
I was gonna
love
say
that
that's
show.
that's
Yeah.
your kids' age.
Yeah,
like,
I
yeah.
love that. Yeah.
I did not watch movies with your kids when they were
No, but
little.
it's a Rodriguez movie, and
I know,
his
that's why
movies are great.
Machete's in it.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's
That's
it's
why
a lot
he
of
was
fun.
in it.
Oh my god.
Didn't you just say who's in it?
Well, the character's Machete.
Oh. I didn't hear that word. I was like, who is in it? Why
No,
won't you
it's
say it again?
oh my god, I've met him.
I can't remember his
He's
name.
way shorter than I expected.
Yeah, I
Like,
can't remember
way,
it
way
right now
shorter.
either.
He's awesome. Research. It's
It's Danny Trejo.
There
Danny
we go.
Trejo. Thank you.
No,
was
and for the record, I was not letting Andy hang there. I was just blanking on
Yeah.
his name.
No, I
too.
know, but I
It's,
just needed to know what the word you had said
that's
was.
Rodriguez's uncle, I believe.
Something like that. Yeah,
And he was also the California State
penal boxing champion.
champion. Like that dude is hardcore.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
And I met him, and he's
Short,
like shorter than me, and I'm not tall.
Yeah.
but he's just this. But in every one of Rodriguez's movies, he plays a guy named Machete, which in a kids movie makes him Uncle Machete, and that's very fun to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a fun movie.
Yeah, I've also heard he's like a very, very nice guy.
He was super nice. Like I met him at Staples.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
There's one story of his where I guess he would like go to hospitals and deliver like stuffed animals to sick kids.
Yeah.
So he was out like shopping one day, and all of a sudden you heard like in the little background a little kid going, "Mommy, mommy, it's the teddy bear man." Because that little kid thinks of Danny Trejo
As the teddy bear man.
the teddy bear
that's
man.
creepy.
Which is super creepy, except that the kid was like in the hospital and he got delivered a teddy bear.
He's got taco places now.
Yeah.
Well, if there's anything to end this episode on, is that we really need to invest in some rehabilitation in the prison system. So
Yes. Yeah. There we go.
Yes.
Because you don't want the prisoners to become vampires, and then we have to dig them up, cut their heads off, and burn their innards.
Yep.
all right.
I guess that's where we stop talking. And thanks for checking out the show today, listeners. If you enjoyed the content today, you can go over to patreon.com/Inebri-art to support the show. You can join over there for just a few dollars a month and help us provide this fun content that you just checked out. You can also email us at Inebri-art.com with your questions, complaints, and concerns, or you can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art or at Inebri-art6 on Instagram. And also don't forget to check out our other shows, Bar Talk Podcast, Old Colony Cast, Inebri-art, and all the other shows on the Inebri-art Network, which you can find at Inebri-art.com. Thanks again for listening.